Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with reference recordings. And today we're talking about Sibelius Symphony No. 5. But before we get to Sibelius Symphony No. 5, I have to do a little fun business. I understand that I have a viewer whose birthday is coming up, and I just wanted to wish him a happy birthday. So, Avicii, this is for you. I dedicate this video to you on the occasion of your birthday. Thank you for watching. Thank you so much for tuning in all the time, and I hope you're enjoying the channel. And I hope that this will be a memento that you can show your relatives and friends and all those people. So happy birthday, Avicii. Now, moving right along to Sibelius Symphony No. 5. As I said before many times, some works have reference recordings and some works don't. And when you're dealing with the Sibelius symphonies, it's really quite tricky because the second definitely had actually two reference recordings, right? Barbaroli and George Szell, one way or another, however you like them. The rest of them are a little bit more controversial. The only one that has a clear reference recording is No. 5, after No. 2. All of the others, well, they tend to be found in cycles or not so much the kind of works where everybody points to one version and says, aha, this gives us the consensus pick. But No. 5 has it because, of course, after No. 2, it's the most popular of all the Sibelius symphonies. So that's one thing it has going for it. Enough people will buy it or will collect it so that we can begin to formulate some kind of consensus. And it also has a certain cachet. It's his most heroic symphony after the Second Symphony as well. The one that has sort of the romantic, splashy stuff that you want in a symphony that's going to have a reference recording. So, anyway, or any work that's going to have a reference recording. It doesn't have to be romantic or it doesn't have to be heroic, but it has to be big enough or important enough in the general public's perception. Not in real life. It's not Sibelius' most important symphony. Some would say the fourth is his most important, or the seventh for its formal innovations, or, the connoisseur's pick, the sixth, or the third. Who knows? You could be any of them, right? Because they're all masterpieces one way or another. So, but nonetheless, there are certain qualities that tend to stand out. So, who is the reference recording for the Sibelius Symphony No. 5? It is Leonard Bernstein and the New York Philharmonic. Now, this was recorded in 1961, but it was only issued in 1965 after he had also recorded Pohjola's Daughter as the coupling. So it sat around in the can for a while. Why is this the reference recording? Well, it's sort of hard to say, actually. No, it's not. It's not. This performance, I mentioned that some performances are references because they may not be the best, but they have certain qualities of revealing what the work is about that everyone sort of agrees on, that makes them useful for comparisons. But there are others where they really are like the best, or the best at that time, up to that time. And that was a time when there were enough people around to form a consensus and say, okay, this was the best up to that time. This is one of those. It is clearly one of those. Now, that's not to say, of course, that there weren't other versions of Sibelius's Fifth. There were. There were quite a few, in fact. And some of them weren't at all bad. But most of them were actually pretty slovenly. They really were, compared to this. This had something of the effect of Bernstein's roughly contemporaneous recording of The Rite of Spring, where you just went, wow, I never realized the music could be this exciting. And it wasn't just a question of excitement. It was excitement that was motivated by what the composer actually wrote. I'll give you an example. Whip out your scores. No, you don't have to whip out your scores. Just take my word for it. Sibelius's first movement has some of the trickiest music in the entire symphonic literature. The reason, of course, is because when he revised the symphony, two movements became one. He jammed them together. And the first movement, which was initially rather slow, rises to this enormous climax, after which the music begins to accelerate. And it finally settles at a new, livelier tempo that has a proportional relationship to the speed that came before. So many conductors just blow that. They have no idea how to do it properly. Bernstein does it perfectly. It's really kind of amazing how well he manages transitions. One of the things about Bernstein when he was like in crazy exciting mode is everyone says, well, he's just emoting all over the place and he's gesticulating and but 99% of the time, whatever visually he might have been doing or whatever might have upset people about that kind of foolishness, he was doing what the composer wanted. And in the second half of this movement, it's going in its little scherzo and the trumpet's going like that. And then it starts to speed up. And as it gradually speeds up, we hear the opening of the symphony come, ba da da da, on the trumpet, and it starts to gather steam. And then it's da 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 ba da da, timpani triple forte, ba ba ba, no, do the trumpets come in. Okay, now from the timpani triple forte, the trumpets come in to a very, very quick new tempo. And so the music has been speeding up. It has to reach this new tempo and then take off like a shot. And then it finally, as the trumpets are going da 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 da, and then when you have that boom, you're basically at prestissimo or vivacissimo or as fast as humanly possible. That's what Sibelius essentially asks for, and Bernstein makes them do it. I mean, you think it's all going to fly to pieces, but it doesn't. They keep it together. The playing is really pretty amazing at that point because they are working as physically, thrillingly as it is possible for an orchestra to work. And that was something new, something very new in this music. It really was. Most performances are far more cautious, and Bernstein did it, and he got away with it. He didn't always get away with it because his remake with the Vienna Philharmonic was sluggish and dreary and awful and clunky and poorly judged. it was just as bad as this one is good in many ways. And so the whole performance goes that way. All of the tricky bits he just nails. He really nails. And the playing was wonderful. The only issue with this performance was the sonics were never great. And this particular one that I'm holding up here is the version that comes from the Bernstein remastered box, that 100 disc kind of random compilation of stuff. But they did remaster it, and it does sound quite a bit better than it did in its previous incarnations, and it needs that. It really does. But really, it's extraordinary how he manages to create the unique Bernstein effect, if you want to call it that excitement, the rush, that unbelievably what seems like total uninhibited craziness, simply by doing what Sibelius is telling the players to do. And that, of course, was an aspect of Bernstein's genius. That's why this is such a great performance, and that's why it became the reference. Because in 1961, there were like I said, many other versions. But if you listen to them and then compare them to this, you're in a different world. You really are. This is one of those cases where the reference recording became the reference because it was such an extraordinary performance. Just an amazing performance. And even people who would not normally care about Bernstein or Sibelius generally would ever listen to this, and they just went, whoa, this is really something special. So there you have it. The reference recording for Sibelius Symphony No. 5. There will be no other Sibelius Symphony reference recordings because there really is no consensus about any of the rest of the symphonies. And even this one is what I might call a provisional consensus. That is, people bought it. People knew about it. The people who knew about it generally agreed about it, I think. I mean, in my perception, having, lived with it for decades and followed the critical literature. I mean, even the Penguin Guide, was excited about this particular performance, and rightly so. And it's such a pity that Bernstein's remake sucked so badly, but that's what happens. It just left this a clear reference. We don't have to deal with two or more. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.